Salutations, crustaceans. I'm Lobster, and I am here with the one and only Nino Valenti of Valenti Basses, the owners,
thanks for having me.
president, CEO, proprietor,
Cat lover.
cat lover. Is that the chief QC tester right there?
No, that's it. This is Hobbs.
Very nice, very nice. So, welcome, and thank you for doing this, first of all. I really
You're welcome.
appreciate.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm honored.
So, a lot of you might not know that Nino and I go way back from a talk-based bass get-together about 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. I
Got
had
some pictures.
Yeah, he has the pictures.
You gotta put some pictures up when.
I'll post them up here. In fact,
Yeah,
here are the pictures. Editing, do your magic. Woo! So, yeah, we go way back from this talk bass get together. That was right when you got started.
Pretty much, yeah. That was about a year. I was building for about maybe a year or two into that get together.
And 15 years later, we're still going strong.
Yeah, knock on wood.
That's really great to hear, and congratulations to all your success. And it's great to see an awesome American builder making awesome instruments. And I hope that this interview and this video is one step into getting your name out there even more. So
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I hope this does it for you. At least I can. My contribution. I don't mean like. I hope this gets you into the big leagues, kid.
Yes.
You finally made it. You're on LowEndLobster. Oh man. So first and foremost, what got you to pick up the bass guitar?
When I first started, I actually was playing guitar. I had bought a guitar and I was learning a whole bunch of stuff and Metallica and all the easier stuff that I can play on guitar without knowing how to play. And just everywhere there were guitars, and there were a few friends that wanted to jam, and everyone was a guitar player. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna play bass. It's fun, because a few of my friends had basses, and I would play their basses, and I just pretty much ended up buying my first bass. Was a Mexican Fender in 1991 or 92, 91 or so, and that pretty much started it. Because with that bass, I totally modded everything about that bass. Changed the tuning gears. I changed the bridge, of course, with a badass. I threw a set of EMGs in it, and that's where it began.
That's where the bug bit you.
Right, exactly.
The modding bug.
Yeah,
so
pretty much almost every bass I've owned since then, I've done some modding to it, pickups and bridge. Usually with a set of EMGs accompanied with a badass. That was pretty much my thing for a long time.
What made you pick the badass? Geddy Lee?
Oh, sure, yeah. Geddy Lee, Steve Harris. That was it. It was like, oh my God, I got to use that bass. I got to use that. As a matter of fact, give me a second.
It's good enough for Geddy. It's good enough for me.
Yeah. It's not really a Steve Harris bass, but it's a light plastic blue with an Omega kind of badass copy.
That's beautiful.
On there. Yeah. That's actually a Mexican Fender that's hanging up there. But we'll not talk about that. It was always Geddy. It was Geddy and Steve Harris. And I had a red Rick because of Cliff Burton. And
did you mod that?
I still had that. What was that?
Did you mod that?
At some point I did. I pulled the bridge pickup off the plastic little
the plate. I know what you're talking about.
The plate, and I installed a J on it. I didn't put a mudbucker in the neck, but I did the J in the bridge, and because I didn't want to cut into it or anything, so it was just like easy enough just to kind of put the J on that plate. So
it's funny when you talk about Ricks, because we can talk about Ricks all day because of the they're listed at $2,500, but then there's the price and the price.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and they're one of a kind instruments, but at the same
I love
time,
them.
me too. But they're also incredibly flawed in their out of the box. Like, you can't just judge it against a regular bass because you're gonna just be like, oh well, this other bass is better, but it's not a Rick, and it will never
Yeah.
sound like a Rick. It will never play like a
Right.
Rick.
Yeah. It that's all. That all adds character to me.
Yes.
It's just they've gone a really good way of keeping tradition alive. They really don't change too much. I'm surprised recently they changed the bridge saddles that have screws. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, what's going on here? And they're very true to tradition, and you don't want to they don't want to mess with a good recipe because that's what it is. You know, it's a good recipe. It works well, and it's a Rick. You know, it's a Rick.
Yeah. Veering off from the main topic
Yes,
for a bit, I have to ask
okay, all that out.
because I know your musical influences, I know your bass player influences, and I know what kind of basses you like in terms of you like Getty basses and you like your Harris basses. You have a similar taste to them, and I
Right,
remember the Valenti I played was the 5 string Getty with the
right.
Nordstrands.
Hmm.
That was a beautiful instrument.
Yeah.
I have to ask, now that you have a bit more flexibility with the kinds of instruments that you make, have you ever thought of teetering that Rick line?
No, not making something like a Rick.
No, teetering the line because, for example, Harley Benton has that really cheap. It's
Hmm.
the HB
Rick looking.
414 Rick
Right.
looking
Hmm.
Rick influence, and they're walking that line so much that I swapped original Rick pickups into it, and the bridge pickup screwed right in.
Hmm.
Like
Oh, really?
the holes on the acrylic
Uh
plate,
huh.
it had a different plate in the Harley Benton, but the holes lined up to the original Rick pickup.
Nice.
I'm like, wow, are you guys really looking for a lawsuit? But like,
Yeah. No, I haven't. I'm a huge Fender fanatic. I like J's. I like P's.
mm-hmm,
Uh, and I have my 21 frets, which are more traditional. Then I have a 21 fret with a downsized body, and then my 24 frets are a bit of a modern take on the traditional J's and P's. 2 octave, a little bit more modern body, especially on the P. You got that extended cutaway on the P,
mm-hmm.
and so it's a little bit of the modern meets the classic.
You get that the extra access, kind of like those Fender Ultras versus the more traditional P shape,
Right.
right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So now back to the main topic. So you got started playing guitar, and then you moved over to bass,
Hmm.
and you played bass for a while. What got you into? You were tinkering, you were modding the basses that you got, but what got you to the point where you're like, I'm gonna start making basses?
But what happened was I would always build something and then usually sell it to kind of start the next project.
Mm-hmm.
Buy another bass, mod it, and then I found Warmouth and I would start building part spaces and kind of making it more to my needs right out of the box, so to say. I didn't have to change pickups. I would put the pickups I wanted. And then I found Talkbase, and that's when the buying and selling kind of really took off because I would build something, put it on Talkbase, sell it so I can build something else for myself. Then, then it would just kind of snowball. And and at this point, I started working at Sadowsky, and I was doing shipping there. And people would just be like, "Hey, listen, why don't you just build your own bases?" I'm like, I don't think so. And a few months passed by, and I was like, you know what? Why not? So I was working with Warmouth, and uh, with Warmouth, it was pretty much just what they had on their website. There was no customizations. It was just my headstock on their necks and bodies, which was great. Which was a great starting point because I got my name out there.
Mm-hmm.
And they sold relatively inexpensive for what they were. When I first started, I was trying to sell them pretty much at the same price as a comparable Fender, just so people wouldn't be too kind of shell shocked, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. People loved them, and it just kind of exploded from there. And I pretty much have to thank Talkbass for that, because without internet, who would I be? I'd be some guy in New York City just playing basses and building parts for himself, you know?
That was a special time in the
Right.
era of bass and the internet, where
Yeah.
that community definitely bloomed, and there was a lot of interaction, and like it was different versus the
Back
internet's a
then
lot.
it was a little smaller.
Yeah, it was
Talkbass was a
smaller.
lot smaller back then. It was a lot more. I knew Talkbass. I knew the people. Now I go there, and a lot of times I'll go there just to kind of search Valenti and see what's going on, who's selling, who's talking about me. And I don't know any of these names. There's just so many new young faces that are there, and it's like, okay, it's different.
And new
It's
old
much different
faces.
than it used to be.
Ayo.
What was that?
I said, and new old faces. Ayo.
Yeah.
I kid. Talk bass people. I love you. So tell me about. So you started just ordering Warmoth parts normally, and then they started doing your headstock. Did you form
Right.
some sort of relationship with them?
Well, I had a couple of the reps that I would deal with, and that was pretty much it. I didn't really deal with any higher ups of the company. Uh, it was pretty much just whatever they had, which was kind of frustrating, because I had ideas in my head of what I wanted to do, and every time I would ask them to do something, oh, can you do, for instance, I wanted graphite reinforcements in my neck. Oh, no, just steel. Now they offer it, but that's 10, 15 years later.
Yeah.
Just, can you modify the body a little? No, sorry. And so as being a one man shop with very limited options, I couldn't afford what they wanted, because they did offer to do kind of custom stuff, but it was high volume per part. And for me, just a one man shop, I couldn't afford to do that.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I still can't afford to do that. They just wanted a really high volume of per piece. So it wouldn't work for me.
I could tell you my girlfriend would be real mad if I had 100 bass bodies sitting over
Yeah.
behind me.
Yeah. Well, 100 bass bodies of just a 4-string J, and then 100
Yep.
of a 4-string P, and then 100 of a 5-string J, and so on and so forth. So it was a little much for me. So I from there I switched to USA Custom, which was a little bit more. They had a little bit more options than Warmoth. They offered 34 and 35 inch scale 5-strings, which was awesome. P's, J's, downsized J's, which are a little different than the Warmoth downsized J.
Mm-hmm.
And they programmed they programmed my headstock into their CNC machine, so it was always the same. Whereas Warmoth cut it by hand, so one time it would look okay, and then one time it was just a little off. Not off enough for me to complain too much, but but it was
I
a
know
little
what you
off.
mean.
And working with Tommy at USA Custom was awesome. He's a great guy, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then from there, we went to, I started, for a while, I used Tim Clunan at Callowhill Guitars. He made about 5 or 10 basses for me. Stuff was great. It's just his turnaround time was a little bit too much. So I stopped that, and I went back to USA Custom. And then from there, I started using Sound Guitar Works. And that's where everything just opened up. It totally took my J's and P's, really modified them to my spec, especially with the downsized J. I had I added an extended treble cutaway, easier access to the 21st fret. I made the bodies a little thinner to help with weight reduction.
Mm-hmm.
I made the next, it's a 21 fret without a fretboard overhang. So it's just total neck into the neck pocket. So the neck pocket's a little bit deeper into the body. Couple other things I did, like the 24 fret, which was huge, opened up a whole new customer base for me with a 24 fret J at the time. And they also offered on a 5-string, they offered a 1 3/4 nut and a 1 7/8 nut, which really, as soon as I started that 1 3/4 nut, I think as soon as I mentioned it, I got about 4 or 5 orders, and it just kind of took off from there because people really wanted a narrower nut width. And I'm still working with them, and I just released the 24 fret precision 4-string and 5-string. Actually, the 5-string has been out for a little while. The 4-string, I just completed my first one about a month or so ago, and I should have another one for stock. That's going to be really nice in about a month or so. So it's going to be great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The 5-string P market is always kind of been an interesting niche, I feel, because I love them. I can't get enough of them, especially like the thing that got me was my 5-string Lakeland 5564 Lakeland Owners Group edition. I got it from I traded with my good friend. He's actually one of my best bass buddies. I traded my Rocco Prestia Conklin, and he's a huge Tower of Power fan, and we're both with MJC Ironworks, the string company, and Rocco was with MJC as well. So him having the Rocco bass after Rocco passed, like he felt, because he was able to talk to him, and he always wanted to meet him and get the bass signed, but that would never happen. So he felt a connection to that instrument. That I love Tower Power, but I was not like, yeah, Tower Power. I wasn't like, I was more into like the prog and rock kind of stuff, and then got more into the jazz. But I was more of a pretentious jazz snob, too uptight for Tower Power.
That's great. Excuse me.
But yeah, I see some manufacturers starting to come out with 5-string P basses, and what was it? Schecter's coming out with the P5. That's 35-inch scale, 19 millimeter spacing. Is that a similar spec like that you guys put together? Like, do you guys do a wide spacing for your 5-strings?
I do. For 5-strings, I offer either 17, 18, or 19 millimeter at the bridge, and at the nut, 1 7/8 at the nut, or 1 3/4. So that'll go with either a P5 or a J5. Nice. And also for 34 and 35-inch scale. So I try to keep it broad as opposed to.
People love their options.
Yeah, so. except my CNC guy when I keep bugging him. So yeah, I gotta reel in those options a little bit.
So in regards to wood choices, how does that process go for you?
I'm a traditionalist. I like swamp ash bodies. I like alder bodies. I'm a huge fan of Palfaro fretboards. I think they sound great. They're not as bright as maple. A little bit brighter than rosewood. It's a really great middle point. I love maple fretboards and rosewood boards. I try to keep it to a traditional kind of spec, because a lot of people know what an alder body with a rosewood fretboard is going to sound like, as opposed to some crazy unpronounceable woods that are like, oh, what's that going to sound like? And what does this sound like? So I try to keep it as traditional as possible. If someone wants a special order something that's got some woods I can't pronounce or spell, I'll do it, and it's yours.
Here's some Norwegian Flargenstar that was grown on the north side of the tree. You can tell the difference.
Oh my God. I'm sure you could. I can't. No, I'm just kidding.
All woods matter.
That's great.
So, Now, in regards to the actual pieces of wood, now do you order in bulk and then send them to your CNC guy? Do you have a specific wood vendor?
For the
How,
most part, they supply most of the wood. A lot of times, I'll supply figured tops, fretboards. If I see something really cool, like a really cool body, I'll buy it and I'll ship it off to them. For the most part, the basic woods they supply,
mm-hmm.
like the alder, the maple, the rosewood, and swamp ash, they supply.
It's interesting that you mentioned earlier about making the bodies a bit thinner for weight reduction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when did you start doing that, and what prompted that change?
Well, with USA Custom, it was their bodies are, I believe, an inch and three quarters thick, and that's just the basic body thickness. Working at Sadowsky, I realized his bodies were a little thinner, so I said, you know what? Let me make it a little thinner. It's not going to affect the sound because Sadowsky basses sound phenomenal,
Mm-hmm.
and so let's cut a little bit of weight off. It started not too long after I switched to Sound Guitar Works. They were able to again, with them, they had a CNC guy in house, so they were able to modify the program to my liking.
Cool. Now, you mentioned Sadowsky. Let's go back to that. How'd you get your start at Sadowsky, and how long were you there? And tell me about working at Sadowsky.
Working at Sadowsky is probably the best experience of my life. Roger Sadowsky is the man. While I was working at Sadowsky, I was building Valenti basses. And if I ever had an issue that I didn't know what to do, everyone at the shop would help me, no questions asked. Roger would help me out. It was just the best experience that I wish I can go back in time and relive it. Uh, when I started at Sadowsky, I was just doing shipping, and going from there, shipping went to just overall QC, final QC. I'm the last person that sees the instrument, so I would look for every little nook and cranny, little defect, which there weren't many working at Sadowsky guitars, but you have to really look because customers that are paying that
Yeah.
premium, they want that bass to be perfect. So I started from there, and I was there. I think total it was about 10 years. I was there, and then I left for a little while, and then I came back, and then towards the end of my tenure, I was building. So I built a bunch of basses before I left and totally started on my own. And that started just stayed at home and made it full time.
So you
So
transitioned directly from working at Sadowsky to being full-time Valenti man?
right, yeah. And so I was at the shop pretty much most of the time that he was in Dumbo. So right when he moved from Manhattan, I started working there, and then like right before he moved to Long Island City is kind of when we parted ways.
That's awesome. And so how'd you get your start there? How'd you get your foot in the door?
I pretty much talk bass because it was just like talk bass was the everyone talked about Sadowsky. So you know what? Let me go to the shop. At the time was in Manhattan. I said, all right, it's a Fender bass, whatever. And I went there with a couple of my basses to try it out. I went there with my GNL L2500 and my US Spectre NS5. And my Spectre NS5 was the bass for me at that time. Nothing beat it. And as soon as there was a natural 24 fret 5-string Sadowsky with chrome hardware, I pulled it down, I played it, and I said, can you change the hardware to black? I'll buy it. And that's pretty much, it was just, it just went, 24. It was a natural 24 fret maple neck, maple fretboard with EMG 40J pickups. That's what he was offering at the time in the 24 frets, and just his regular 2-band preamp, and it just destroyed both of those basses. And that Spectre bass is awesome. Still is. A friend of mine owns it. It's awesome. But the Sadowsky just crushed it. And then from there, I bought a couple other things, and I think I needed a job. And I said, "You need anyone to work?" And then, yeah, we're moving to Brooklyn. Once we move to Brooklyn, we'll find something for you. And then I moved to Brooklyn. I started doing shipping, and all went from there.
Wow, that's a great story, man.
Ah, that natural Sadowsky was phenomenal.
You know, a bass is special when you remember it all those years later.
Yeah, yeah.
Feel in your hands.
I tried looking for it a couple of times, but I at this point I can't even. I wouldn't want to buy it back just because I think my wife would kill me.
I know the feeling, man.
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Oh man. So you left Sadowsky, and you started doing Valenti full time, and tell me about the growth there, and I guess how you got to. When was that? When did you leave Sadowsky? And tell me about from then to now.
I don't remember dates because I'm lucky I remember what day it is today. But you know, when I left, I just was I was working at home full time. I have my shop in the basement. At the time, the kids were younger, so I would be able to pick them up from school, drop them off to where they had to go for karate and dance and whatnot. And now that they're older, I'm a full-time builder, which is great, you know.
Kind of do things at your own pace a bit.
Yeah,
that's good. That is good. Where do you see Valenti going in the next 5 years or 10 years?
I at this point, I just kind of hope it stays the same. I have a really great group of clientele. I have a lot of great return customers. I have a lot of new customers thanks to Facebook, Talkbase, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. I'm always meeting new people. I love going to Gerald Veasley's Bass Boot Camp Expo, showing my basses there. Those guys in Philly are great. I try to hit up as many small shows as possible, and if I stay the way I am now, I'll be happy. You know, I'm able to work at home, be with my wife and kids, and you know, hopefully the kids will move out soon because they're getting old. But but it's great. I love it.
That's great.
It would be nice if there were a couple of bass stores that would carry my stuff, but other than that, I love selling direct. I love talking to customers about what they want and how to make their vision into a reality.
Yeah, man. And honestly, in regards to like having bass stores stock your stuff, I mean, I guess be careful what you wish for nowadays, because who's going to a bass store when everyone's buying online? So
right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hopefully this will change in the not too far future, and we'll be able to actually go out and
I'm hoping
converse with people and hug people and play other people's basses and see people play live and all that other good stuff.
I'm gonna get so many free hug shirts.
Excuse me.
What else? Do you are you a gigging guy still? Because I know you got your start. You were gigging a bit, right?
At this point, nobody's gigging, so I would say no. But when things wake up again, I hope that my STP tribute band will start gigging again. And I am in an original band that we've been playing together since 1994. Band we're called Theorem, and we're just a bunch of old dudes that at this point we're a bunch of old dudes that like to go in the studio, jam a little bit, hang out. You know, at this point we're family. So we were at each other's birthday parties, kids' birthday parties, and New Year's and Christmas. We're all together. So it's a family now, which is awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's great to have just like a musical family, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And we haven't gigged in a while because recently my drummer got into a pretty bad car accident, and his back is really
Oh no.
screwed. So yes, but he's been a trooper lately. He's been strengthening up, and he's been getting back on track. So hopefully soon we'll be able to gig again and again and again, rehearse and just jam.
That's what it's all about. Just jamming, man.
Yeah.
If drums is too much, tell him to hit up Future Man. From Bela Fleck and the Flecktones with his little drum guitar.
That's cool.
uh,
Oh man.
any final things you want to say to the audience about Valenti Basses, music?
Yeah, just a huge thank you for having me, and it's honored to be on your show.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I look forward to chatting with you again, my friend.
You got it, man.
Take care.